Hey guys, Chastity and Greg here with another breakdown of Star Trek Discovery, this time with Season 3, Episode 8, The Sanctuary.
Now, before we get started, of course, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen this episode yet, get out of here, go watch it, and then come on back here.
Alright, let's do something a little differently this week. We're going to go subplot by subplot. So we're going to start first with Georgiou's health. Georgiou's health is declining. In Episode 6, it was established that Georgiou doesn't know what's happening to her, but her condition has been getting more severe. So you can tell that she's in trouble because all of her defense mechanisms are going up right now, even more so than usual. She's just on the defense, and she will refuse help from anyone that offers it, and she's just very stubborn about this.
She's like, I'd kill your children, Culber. Anything. I love it. And even at this point, everyone's like, now, settle down. We know you're not going to do any of that, so just calm down. Let us help you.
And of course, she doesn't want to seem weak or like she needs help because that's not the Terran way.
And Culber tells her that her condition is serious and he can tell that she's terrified. He says she's in the early stages of a brain dysfunction, and he warns her that she won't recognize anyone, not even herself, if they don't address this quickly.
So they're going to conduct a scan of her entire body system by system to figure out what's going on at an atomic level, to hopefully get a clue of where to start. So Michael shows up to support her, which Georgiou likes even though she doesn't admit it, and I think they've been having a lot of fun back and forths this season, have been getting closer, and I'm really enjoying that.
Congratulations, your mother must be very proud. I killed her. No, you did not, by the way.
Back with Culber and Pollard, they utilize the new 32nd century future tech for Georgiou's body scan. And during that scan, she starts to have an episode and is in danger of a cerebral hemorrhage. Pollard wants to abort it, but the scan is only 83% complete.
Then during Georgiou's episode, we see more of her traumatic visions, and this time they form a story. First we see Georgiou screaming, then we see the Terran Empire symbol from the 2250s as seen in Disco Season 1. Next, Georgiou approaches a bloody dagger sitting beside someone's body who's wearing a helmet. Georgiou touches the bloody corpse of the person with the helmet. She looks at her bloody hand and screams, which matches the same first screaming shot.
So Georgiou starts to glitch out here. She's like warping or something, and she wakes up immediately from that vision. Doesn't tell Culber or anyone what it was. Still, she's keeping it to herself, and she heads out the room, but she's also keeping one of those scanners with her.
So Georgiou looks at her med scan results and assumes that she's dying. She also tries to go help Burnham, but Culber stops her and takes her somewhere to talk. So something Culber said during the scan sent me down a rabbit hole, and now I have got this theory that she's got a memory virus, which is something that we've seen in Voyager in the episode Flashback. So Culber says of Georgiou,
her encephalographic readings are peaking. She's having an episode.
An encephalographic profile is a study done by medical personnel on a patient having a mental breakdown. In the Voyager episode Flashback, Tuvok has a mental breakdown triggered by a suppressed memory. The doctor uses a neurocortical monitor to record an encephalographic profile on him if he has another episode, which he does. Later, the doctor finds a memory virus in Tuvok's brain that was causing him to repeatedly experience a traumatic memory of a young girl falling.
The memory virus was passed person to person via physical contact. The virus disguised itself as a memory engram, a memory so traumatic that the host suppressed it, but it turns out it was a false memory. And the doctor kills the virus with thoron radiation.
So could this be related to what's happening to Georgiou? Because I think maybe she got a memory virus. Maybe Cronenberg gave it to her. I don't know. He's obsessed with the Terrans. Maybe he got it somehow and passed it to her.
I buy this. I buy some form of this is happening maybe to Georgiou, and it has something to do with Cronenberg because that's the last person she saw.
Before this started happening. So there are definitely some similarities here for sure. So Georgiou and Tuvok both saw a repeated traumatic memory, both became disoriented and collapsed to the floor, seeing those suppressed memories. She's envisioning a memory from the Terran universe, but maybe this is somebody else's. It could have been passed to her.
Now let's change gears to Adira and the burn origin. Adira and Stamets combined the data from Ni'Var with the data from the black boxes and found where the burn started. It's the Verubin Nebula, and Adira says that something or someone is sending a signal from the center of the nebula.
We had the Barzan mother humming the same melody in the recording on the Seed ship, and Adira learned to play it on the cello from Gray's memories.
Now from there, Saru has them model the original signal without the distortion, and sure enough, it sounds like a Federation distress signal. There's a ship lost there. A distress signal would include an encoded message, so Stamets has Adira write an algorithm that can find and decode it, which will take a few hours.
Ooh, a lost ship. I'm willing to bet that it's a ship that we've heard of before or is already existing in canon. I feel like it's going to be a familiar name.
Excelsior, it's Sulu, somehow.
Then Stamets learns that Adira is non-binary, and their pronouns are they, them. This is a big step for Adira, who has never told anyone but Gray. Later, Stamets sees Adira playing the cello. Of the Tals, Kasha was the first to learn to play, then Gray picked it up, and now Adira.
Adira tells Stamets that even though they can still feel Gray, for some reason Gray isn't talking to them anymore. Furthermore, every day Adira wakes up unsure of who they're going to feel more.
So it's nice to see them forming a bond and see the softer side of Stamets. He's showing compassion, he's showing understanding, he's showing pride for Adira. It's really nice. Alright, let's move on to the main plot, Book's home planet and the trouble with Osyraa. Book tells Burnham he has to go home to Kwejian. His brother sent him a message through the courier network and he's having trouble with Osyraa and the Emerald Chain. She's going to destroy his planet. Burnham says he'll need help to get there, so she takes him to Saru and Vance.
On Kwejian, the burn caused a tidal change which then caused sea locusts to eat their harvest. Millions of people were starving and the Emerald Chain offered a repellent, but they wanted their transworms in exchange.
And you can see what they were using those for. Poor Taylor.
Yeah, sorry Taylor.
He's on to Osyraa, no!
Vance doesn't seem surprised by this story at all. He says the chain has turned the Prime Directive violations into an art form. As you know, the Prime Directive, aka Starfleet General Order 1, was one of Starfleet's most important ethical principles. Starfleet are to refrain from interfering in the natural, unassisted development of societies.
The chain makes reckless contact with pre-warp civilizations that have something they want, and there are 50 star systems in the same predicament. So Saru proposes to go to Kwejian as observers, and Vance allows this as long as they promise to jump away at the slightest indication that they are in danger.
Was that ever gonna happen?
No.
Book and his brother had a falling out after his brother started hunting transworms for the chain, but his priority is to help his planet not mend his relationship with his brother. Discovery jumps to Kwejian, and when they arrive, Osyraa's ship the Viridian is not far behind, and it's heavily armed.
So Saru sends Book and Burnham to transport down to the planet. However, Kwejian has a defense system. Anything entering the protected area can't be tracked or transported out. They're on their own.
That's super useful. I feel like Starfleet should get that information and share it with other planets. Like, I don't know, or just hold on to how to do that. That's a really good defense system.
Now, the sea locusts have made their way inland, which means Kwejian has not had repellent for weeks. And this is where we see Book use his empath abilities to ask the creatures to move aside.
Next, they're confronted by Book's brother, and we learn that Book used to go by the name Terex. After they're taken away, Book's brother Kyheem introduces himself to Burnham. We learn that Book's late father and grandfather started working for the Emerald Chain, which is what prompted Book to change his name. Kyheem called Book because Osyraa wants Rin. He tells Book he has to give him up. Meanwhile, the Viridian arrives at Kwejian and scans Discovery. Saru tells the crew to follow diplomatic protocols. They make contact with Osyraa. Saru tells her they are an observational presence at the request of the citizens of Kwejian.
And Osyraa tells him that they are harboring a wanted criminal, referring to Rin, and demands he be transported to her ship. She says he broke his lifelong contract, which Saru calls her out and says that's slavery.
Osyraa threatens the planet and any of their crew on its surface if they don't give her Rin, and gives them 5 minutes. Osyraa contacts Kyheem and tells him she needs Book and whoever he came with. Kyheem is reluctant, so she threatens that he'll have to watch his child starve. He doesn't budge, so she fires on his planet and says she'll keep doing so until he brings her Book.
So while this is all going on, Saru brings Rin to the bridge where he tries to see why are you so important to Osyraa, and he's not saying a word. He is not thrilled with Federation. He doesn't trust anyone here. Back on the planet, Burnham and Book make a run for it to attempt to repair the downed defense system. And then Rin tells Saru he knows where the weaknesses in Osyraa's shields are, and he's willing to help for Book's sake.
Kyheem sends his crew to capture Book and Burnham, and they fight them off. But then Kyheem shows up and fights Book. They're fighting through their own drama and resentment. Burnham's just letting it happen. She's like, I'm gonna let them finish. Like,
She's like, yeah.
This needs to happen.
And she's just watching it all go down until, of course, he pulls out a knife, and then they're like, okay, that's enough.
She's like, okay,
Stop.
okay.
And then Book dares Kyheem to shoot him, but of course he can't. And Burnham suggests that they move the sea locusts out to sea using their empathic abilities. Plus, Discovery's help amplifying the message. They do, and of course, it works.
So we've got a happy ending. Book and Kyheem make up after all this long history of resentment, and Book gets to meet his nephew. It's all nice. And also Book's deciding to stay on Discovery.
I don't know what his job's gonna be.
So yeah, how will he fit into Starfleet? Because he can't just go to Saru and get a job. He has to go through Vance. Like, they're connected to Starfleet now. All right, let's go to the last subplot, and this one's focused around Detmer. Detmer had engineering make a new operating interface for her, and she tells Oo that it's because she needs failsafes. She still doesn't trust herself.
And in the middle of the Osyraa conflict, Nilsson warns that if Discovery attacks Osyraa, it will start a war between the Federation and the Chain. So Tilly proposes firing at them from a non-Federation ship flown by a pilot gone rogue, since they have access to Book's vessel.
Of course, Detmer steps up, taking Rin with her since he knows the weaknesses in Osyraa's ship. He tells her where to target and they weaken the shields. After taking damage, Rin tells her to go back, but Detmer says,
"If you face something, you can beat it. That is exactly what we're gonna do right now."
So obviously this quote was also reflective of Detmer and her storyline here, where she's facing and determined to beat her PTSD.
So then Detmer goes full manual controls here, and the controllers, they look like something.
hell yeah.
Yep, hell yeah, Tony Hawk, here we go. But those controllers look straight up out of an Oculus.
Those are
Rift.
Oculus Touch controllers for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they look like so much fun. They can make a game.
Someone at CBS is like, you know what?
What if we had an Oculus game? Rin directs her to target the weapon system generator, and then the Viridian stands down. Osyraa tells Saru that he's sealed the fate of the Federation and they will feel the full weight of the chain. Then the Viridian leaves. You know, she says that, and I'm still not scared. I feel like she tucked her tail under her legs. I'm just like,
Yeah.
you're gonna get it. And then she like just blasts off. Team Rocket blasting off at the speed of light.
Exactly. Saru could have just said, he could have cut her off before she even finished her line, be like, whatever, bye, black alert, let's get out of here.
You're gonna get it.
And at the end, Detmer catches up with her friends, and she's back to her old self again, and in great spirits. This is easily the happiest we've seen her all season.
And finally, Rin reveals to Tilly that the chain is running out of dilithium, and he's the only one who knows. So this seemed predictable and isn't a huge surprise, but I guess now that's going to put a target on the Discovery once they eventually find out that they have all this pure dilithium. They're going to find out very soon.
All right, let's jump into final thoughts here, since we're more than halfway through this season, and we're just talking about it off camera about villains and Star Trek. And on this season, does Discovery have a villain problem? It's just that the villains they've had so far this season haven't been inspiring.
They're not
at the
threatening,
least.
like at all.
Not at all.
Which is a problem. So yeah, something about Osyraa just felt off. Like I'd never felt threatened by her in this episode. And I don't know if it was like the performance or the appearance, maybe more so the appearance. She kind of looked like a Gamora cosplayer wearing New York and Company, and she's like doing a job as a journalist or something. I don't know. It was a very strange way to have her dressed up and introduced.
Like, all the things are there, but it just didn't add up. Never once do you feel terrified or you threatened by this person. And if Discovery, not a single person on that ship, is threatened by her, then why should we?
Exactly. But also, to be fair, Control is a really hard act to follow, because that was just really good. That was really good, really terrifying. You just always felt afraid for every single character because of the AI.
Now, this isn't a huge issue because in Trek history, usually you spend your time with the main cast here and everyone on that ship first to get to know all the characters before you introduce a real big bad villain here. Like we got the Borg, the Foundation, the Jem'Hadar. All these are amazing villains. Obviously, it's to try to top them, that's gonna be tough anyways. But I'm sure season 4 and 5, there's going to be a big baddie, a big major villain in the future of this franchise. And speaking of villains, Ren mentions in this episode that the Federation's help comes with strings attached. And then Tilly says, no, it doesn't. But that quickly, that got me going, wait a minute. What's his vision of the Federation right now? What's his view of it at this moment in time? And what does Disco not know about it? I hope there's not some skeletons in the closet with the Federation. Now, I'm willing to believe that maybe there are some moles in the Federation. Sure, of course.
Sure. That's how the chain's gonna find out about the dilithium.
I really hope Federation and Vance are not the major villains going
No,
forward. Please no.
All right, let's talk about Saru. He's coming into his own as a captain. He's trying to find a catchphrase, which was fun and a really silly thing this episode, but I loved it. He's trying to like model himself after captains that he's respected, and he's trying to do his best.
Execute.
I hope it keeps going each week. I hope it's not over.
Things.
Yes, keep testing them each episode. I want to see where they're going. Up and at them.
Now on to things we noticed and Easter eggs. Saru asks Tilly for help developing his captain catchphrase.
Hit it then. Right.
As mentioned, Captain Pike used Hit It in Season 2 of Discovery. In Season 1, Lorca said, go. And some other notable Starfleet captain catchphrases include Janeway's Do It.
Do it.
And of course, Picard's iconic catchphrases, Make It So and Engage.
Captain.
book says Osyra's ship is called the Viridian. Now, Viridian is a blue-green pigment taking its name from the Latin word viridis, meaning green. Obviously, Orions are known for their green skin, so Viridian is a bit on the nose for the Orion ship. And although it's a slightly different spelling, Viridian is also the name of a star and star system in the Beta Quadrant shown in the movie Star Trek Generations.
The actor who plays Rin is Noah Auerbach-Katz. In real life, he's married to Mary Wiseman, who plays Tilly, so it's nice that they got to share a scene or two together in this episode.
Saru brings up to Osyraa that the Orions were once enslaved themselves. He's referring to the Orion slave girls who were victims of enslavement by the Orion Syndicate from the 2150s to the 2250s, first seen in the TOS episode, The Cage.
Saru mentions the Security Protocol 49.09 when discussing the transfer of Rin to Osyraa. That exact protocol number was also referenced by James T. Kirk in the Kelvin timeline in 2258. When acting Captain Spock marooned him on the planet Delta Vega, Kirk recorded a login in which he accused Spock of being in violation of Security Protocol 49.09, which regarded the treatment of prisoners held on a starship. Alright, that's it for this episode, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next breakdown of episode 9.
Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comment section down below, and we'll be back here next week. Bye, everybody.